Hello my lovelies, welcome back to my channel Tara Dayton Atelier and a happy new year. I hope you had a really restful, lovely, fun Christmas regardless of lockdowns, global pandemics, etc. And it certainly feels like a breath of fresh air being 2021. Who knows if this year is going to be any different at all to last year, but I'm hopeful. So in today's video I wanted to talk through my thoughts on New Year and last year a little bit, my reSEWlutions, and see what I did there, and just show you a couple of things that I got for Christmas and I feel are worthy of sharing. I have written everything down in here. This is the master plan. Last year, as we all know, unless we have been asleep, like Sleeping Beauty for the entirety of 2020, has been a real doozer. And I decided to take it as an opportunity. I had been really agonising over decisions about my business. Now I sew for a living, I did make bespoke wedding dresses and occasion wear, all vintage inspired. And the business had not been going well and I really wasn't happy anyway. I didn't enjoy it. I think even if it had gone well, I wouldn't have enjoyed it particularly. It didn't really feel like it was my truth somehow. And I know some people are going to find that a really annoying statement, but that is, you know, how I felt about it. And so I decided, and actually the decision was kind of made for me because there were no weddings, therefore there were no wedding dresses. No one was booking to have their dresses made. So it kind of, everything just kind of stopped. So I was able to make a few decisions, and one of the things that I really decided to do was to commit to this idea of creating my own sewing patterns, my own sewing resources, to really look at the vintage dresses, particularly from the 30s and 40s, a little bit from the early 50s, that had inspired me as a child. And I just made the decision to go down that path. I also, at the same time as working in industry and making bespoke dresses and so on, I'm a qualified teacher. So this sort of thought process was aligning my teaching and my love of making clothes, so it seems like a really logical fit. So I was really pleased to work with one of my ex-students who's very talented. The whole idea of Tara Dayton Atelier is to share my sewing journey with you, but also if there are some skills that I have, if I can inspire you, if you can learn, if we can just have a laugh, that's the whole point of it. And working with people that I really admire, and you know, I'm big about inspiration. So I was so pleased to get my, it's a bit shiny, my circle skirt sewing guide. It's a slightly different concept to other sewing dressmaking products on the market because it takes you through all the pattern cutting and how I sew, and there's also I also wanted to put in, you know, stuff about my inspiration. So there's my mood board and my illustrations in here. Some of these are Charlotte's illustrations actually. She's really good, I'll link her stuff below. But I wanted to do it in a way that was reminiscent of the vintage patterns and, you know, those vintage magazines and books. I wanted to bring all of that into a new product. So I've sold a couple of these and I was really, really pleased to sell just a couple, but I think I'm still gonna be working on this concept, but I am also currently working on an actual PDF pattern that you can download, but there'll be loads more about that in the future. And I also published my vintage tassel beret pattern. This is one of Charlotte's lovely illustrations. And this is based off, it's a whole pattern there, based off of a vintage pattern that my mother had. So it means a lot to me. I'm very much about putting my heart and soul into the things, my passion into the things that I'm doing. And I think that's the thing that I'm most proud of over the course of the year, in that I was sort of holding myself back. I was too scared to really commit, really put myself out there. Didn't like to be photographed, didn't like to be filmed. You know, I wanted to create this image, this visage through this bridal business, and it wasn't really me. So it, you know, the universe or whatever you believe, somehow it just never really went. So as soon as I made this decision, it just took off. So I'm very clear on my new direction, and I feel really excited, and I'm working on all sorts of new things for 2021, and I'm looking forward to sharing those with you. Another highlight obviously has been setting up this YouTube channel. I can't believe that I sit here and talk on camera and put it on the internet for people to see, and that the response has been so warm and generous. And I think that's a really lovely thing about the sewing community, is that it's a very nurturing, kind, generous, inspirational community, and we all cheerlead each other on, and I love that about it, and that's why I've always loved it and why I love being part of it. I don't really set resolutions in the traditional sense, because I feel like, you know, you always trip yourself up and then you feel more disappointed and so on. I think it's very important to set goals, however, and what I do is I give the year a theme. So last year I decided to theme it as reflect, and boy did we have a lot of time to do that, but it was very helpful. And this year I'm theming the year energize. So in every area of my life I am looking to do things with a mindful intent, working towards specific goals, and in every area I am aiming to create energy. My newfound sense of purpose and real focus on the business, I have very specific deadlines and aims and goals. That's you know, energizing, because when you're really in love with what you're doing and you feel so purposeful and you're helping other people and you're making a really positive contribution to your community and to the wider community, then that's a really energizing thing. I had definitely let my health and diet and exercise and all of those things, like many of us I think probably found, I'd really let that slip. So I have come up with something quite easy for me to adhere to work towards. So it's, you know, basically dealing with the, like, sleeping well, eating well, getting out in the sunshine, doing some exercise, working out exactly what is right for me, because we're all different. So I've been, I found this book, not a sewing related book, called Make Time. And I was actually looking for a book on Jungian shadow archetypes, as you do. Anyway, and this jumped off the shelf at me, and I thought, oh, this is really good, because what I found is that I work harder and harder and harder, longer and longer and longer, and seem to achieve less and less, and I'm knackered, and I don't feel particularly motivated or inspired or energized. So I've really done a complete overhaul of my life, and this book is blooming brilliant. If you have had that experience the same as me, this book, How Make Time, How to Focus on What Matters Every Day, just really helped me reorganize my life and gave me lots of ideas on how to, you know, just pull in bits of, you know, better practice. So it's about working smarter rather than working harder, which I used to say a lot to my students when I was teaching degree level fashion, but I, you know, had not listened to my own advice. But that's been really, really helpful. reSEWlution time. One of the things that I would really like to do is to keep a record of all the things that I make. Including stuff that I make for other people. And it was really nice to see some YouTubers looking back and going over all the things that they've made. So I definitely want to document that process, especially as my next reSEWlution is about being very intentional. Like so many people who love fabric, I'm a magpie and it's, you know, oh, that's lovely, that's lovely, that's lovely. And I then become quite overwhelmed with the amount of ideas that I have. So I want to be very set and purposeful on what I'm making. And what I found when I looked back at my most successful makes last year was that when I planned things in outfits, and that was the whole outfit, including, you know, accessories and so on, I was much more, I got it spot on. I actually made things that I really, really loved. And when I thought about them as a whole, and rather than as a, oh, I want to make that, oh, I want to make that, that didn't really work. So planning outfits and wardrobe building, and very specifically looking at those vintage 1940s, really, I think, items that really get me excited. And I want to continue exploring using vintage patterns, vintage reproduction patterns. That's been so much fun. So I definitely want to do a lot more, and I'd like to share that with you and do a lot more, maybe sew-alongs with vintage patterns. Let me know what you think about that. But I also want to, because I'm developing my own range of patterns, and I also want to do a lot more pattern cutting, copying pictures of vintage dresses, or maybe recreating looks from films, or, you know, so on. So I've got loads of ideas that I'm really excited about. The other thing that I'd really like to do, which I've never done before, is take part in Me Made May. I assume that will happen, whatever's happening in the world. But I think that would be a really interesting experience. A very specific reSEWlution is I would like to improve my waistbands in my garments. Now, I have a real hate-hate relationship with iron-on interfacing, and I've used it in a few recent garments, like vintage inspired garments, but garments anyway. We use it a lot in dressmaking, don't we? But it always ends up this like really rubbish finish. So really go into how waistbands should be constructed so that I make really lovely waistbands, because that's one of the, you know, I've noticed that it's a bit of a habit of mine to not make the best waistbands in my garments. I also want to have a look at embellishments. So I've mentioned before about trapunto, which is also known as Italian quilting. It was used a lot as an embellishment on suiting and all sorts of evening wear and so on. So I'd really like to use that and integrate that into my sewing. And also applique, which I've always loved. So my best make for 2020 will probably come as no surprise. This one, the vintage trousers that I made from, I'll put a picture of the pattern in here. I made 3 pairs of these. I absolutely love them. See what I mean? I haven't ironed these, but like the weird waisty band thing going on. Absolutely love those. I've worn and worn and worn them so much that they, I mean, almost literally nearly every single day, which you would do with a pair of jeans. And these make me feel great. So I'm really happy to have discovered that pattern, and I will be making lots more. So the blouse here is the blouse in the pattern. Love that as well. And then my proudest achievement really is my full circle skirt, and there's one of them on here in this lovely textured wool, which is very, very Chanel actually. And I feel, you know, really proud of that, and I feel really good when I wear these clothes. Last but not least, I just wanted to share just a couple of little gifts that my daughter bought me that I'm just so absolutely in love with. They're all vintage, and the first one, because I think you know how obsessed I am with these little Chinese pin cushions with these little tiny peepals on them, and this is my favourite colour. And she also filled it with brand new glass-headed pins for me, so that was almost my favourite Christmas present. And she also bought me, again, she got these off of eBay, this little, I didn't really know what it was, but inside, there's something inside here, and it's actually a, I think it's a lotus flower or something like that. So it's a tea bag holder, which is just incredible, but how absolutely gorgeous. And then, because, you know, we're on a theme here, she bought me this really lovely little tiger. So all just really beautiful. I absolutely love this. I think it's just the sweetest, loveliest little thing, and means a great deal to me. Thank you for spending this time with me and listening to me talk about my New Year's musings and reSEWlutions and some little gifts. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you're keeping well. If this is the first time that you've stumbled across my channel and you've watched the entirety of this video, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me. I am all about vintage inspired sewing and DIY style, and you know, if that's your cup of tea, then do like and subscribe. Let people know. I so enjoy making these videos for all of you, and it's lovely having the dialogue. So let me know any thoughts, if there are things that you would like me to do specifically about sewing and so on, then, you know, I absolutely value your ideas. I'll see you next week. I hope you have a lovely week, whatever you are doing, and take care, my lovelies. Until then, bye.